Welcome to Mystery Cafe, your ultimate stop for gripping detective stories, chilling mysteries, and unforgettable investigations. Here, every video serves a fresh dose of suspense, shocking twists, and cases that challenge your inner detective. From classic whodunits to modern crime stories, we bring the world of mystery straight to your screen, where every clue matters and no secret stays buried for long. Before we start unraveling today's mystery, we'd love to know, where are you watching from? Globe showing Europe, Africa. Drop your country, city, or stay in the comments, and let's see how far the Mystery Cafe family reaches. Magnifying glass tilted right.
Murder at Hawthorne Harbor. Chapter 1. The Vanishing at Dawn. The gulls were already circling lazily above Hawthorne Harbor when Jessica Fletcher stepped off the shuttle bus, notebook tucked under her arm, and a warm sea breeze brushing her face. The small coastal town with its whitewashed docks and weather-beaten fishing boats was preparing for the annual Hawthorne Literary Festival, a celebration Jessica had been invited to as keynote speaker. Though she had visited countless towns across Maine, something about Hawthorne Harbor felt still, as though it held its breath, waiting for a story to unfold. Jessica smiled. "A perfect place for inspiration," she murmured, pulling her suitcase behind her as she headed toward the pier. Vendors were just setting up their stands, arranging baked goods, books, and handcrafted trinkets along the boardwalk. Lanterns hung from ropes above, ready for the evening festivities. Fishermen were returning from the early morning tide, pulling nets and crates onto the docks with practiced precision. But despite the bustle, Jessica felt an odd tension in the air. People whispered in small clusters, glancing toward the outer pier. Jessica followed their line of sight. A young woman stood alone at the edge of the long wooden pier, her auburn hair whipping wildly in the wind. She wore a cream-colored sweater and dark jeans, simple, but something about her posture seemed troubled, tense. Jessica paused. The woman kept looking over her shoulder as though expecting someone, or fearing someone. Jessica walked toward her, but before she reached halfway, a sound cut through the morning air. A scream, sharp, echoing, terrified. Jessica's heart seized. The woman on the pier stepped backward, too close to the edge. A second scream followed. Jessica broke into a run, but it happened too fast. The woman staggered, her arms flailed once, and she vanished over the side of the pier. Jessica reached the edge, gripping the railing. The water churned below, dark and merciless, but there was no sign of the woman, no splash, no cry, no hand reaching up. Just silence. People ran closer, gasps, shouts. Jessica shouted, "Call the Coast Guard!" A fisherman pulled a rope from his boat, tossing it into the water. Another dove in without hesitation, breaking the surface with a painful splash. Jessica scanned the waves, desperation clawing at her. Nothing. Within minutes, the harbor alarm sounded. Boats scrambled, lines were cast, searchers scoured the waters. Jessica stood on the pier, gripping the railing so tightly her knuckles whitened. The morning sun rose higher, glistening off the water with deceptive tranquility. A hand touched her shoulder. She turned to see a young man in a soaked flannel shirt, shivering from the plunge. "I didn't see anything," he said breathlessly. "She wasn't there. The currents are strong today." But Jessica shook her head. "No, I was watching her. She fell right there. Someone must keep searching." "We will," a steady voice said. Jessica turned to see Chief Marina Hale, Hawthorne Harbor's police chief, striding down the pier. Sharp-eyed, dark-haired, and composed, despite the chaos, she assessed Jessica with quick precision. "Jessica Fletcher," she said, extending a hand. "I've read your books." Jessica nodded, though her mind remained fixated on the water. "I saw the woman fall," She looked frightened before it happened. Chief Hale frowned. Frightened? Yes, someone was watching her, or she believed they were. Hale scribbled notes. Did you see anyone else on the pier? No, Jessica said, gaze narrowing. But she wasn't simply sightseeing, she was waiting for someone. Hale glanced at her officers. Expand the search zone by 200 yards. The divers resurfaced, shaking their heads. Still nothing. Jessica wrapped her arms around herself against the wind as Hale approached again. The water's cold but not lethal, the chief said. She should have resurfaced, unless... Her voice trailed off. Jessica finished quietly. Unless she didn't fall. Chief Hale raised a brow. Pushed or pulled? Jessica nodded slowly. Or met someone down there? The chief studied her. You're thinking foul play. Jessica looked back at the empty waves. No one disappears without a trace unless someone wanted them gone. Hale exhaled. We don't have a name for her. Do you? Jessica shook her head. But she seemed familiar somehow, like I've seen her picture before. As they walked back toward the boardwalk, Hale gestured to an officer. Check missing persons. Look for any festival participants not checked in. Jessica's eyes drifted to the end of the pier again. That's when she saw it. A scrap of cream-colored fabric caught on a protruding nail. Jessica approached and gently removed it. The sweater, the woman's sweater, but stitched along the inside seam was a tiny embroidered monogram. E.R. Hale leaned in. Initials. Good catch. Jessica felt that pull, the unmistakable tug of mystery that always found her. Chief Hale, she said softly, I don't believe this was an accident. Someone is watching this harbor, and they don't want her found. Hale's jaw tightened. Then we'll find them. Just then, a shout erupted from the docked boats. We found something. Jessica and Hale rushed forward. A fisherman held up a waterproof leather journal, soaked but intact. Hale took it carefully. This was floating near the rocks. Jessica's pulse quickened. The cover bore the same monogram. E.R., Jessica whispered. This journal will tell us everything. Hale nodded. And whoever tried to hide it made a mistake. Jessica glanced back at the pier where the woman vanished. A chill ran through her, not from the wind, but from certainty. This wasn't the beginning of an accident. It was the beginning of a conspiracy. Chapter 2. The Silent Lighthouse. Chief Marina Hale held the soaked journal carefully as she and Jessica moved away from the gathering crowd. The pier had become a hive of frantic activity, officers interviewing witnesses, fishermen tying off their boats early, festival vendors whispering behind their stalls. But Jessica's focus stayed fixed on that journal. It felt heavy, not in weight, but in implication. Chief Hale led her toward the harbor station, a small wooden building overlooking the water, its windows fogged with morning humidity. Inside, a desk lamp flickered to life as Hale laid the journal on a towel. The cover, once dark brown leather, was now bloated from seawater, the edges curled like burnt paper. Jessica traced the embossed initials again. E.R. Hale exhaled. Let's dry it. Carefully. While Hale retrieved a small fan and paper towels, Jessica stared out the window. From the station, she could just make out the tip of the Hawthorne lighthouse, perched on a distant rocky outcrop. Its once bright red paint had faded to a weather-beaten rust, and the lantern room at the top stood dark. Does the lighthouse still work? Jessica asked. Hale shook her head. Shut down 5 years ago, too costly to maintain. Jessica frowned. Odd. From the pier, the woman kept glancing in that direction. Hale paused. You think she was waiting for someone there? Or she saw something? Jessica murmured, something that frightened her. The chief turned the journal's soaked cover slightly. Let's see if we can open the first page. The pages clung together like wet leaves. Hale used a thin spatula to gently lift the corner. With a soft tear, the journal peeled open just enough to reveal smeared ink. Jessica leaned in, squinting. The words were faded, but still decipherable. Hawthorne Harbor isn't what it seems. If anything happens to me, the lighthouse holds the truth. Jessica and Hale exchanged a look. Well, Hale said quietly, there's our next stop. The walk to the lighthouse. The path to the lighthouse wound along the cliffs, a narrow dirt trail bordered by salt grass. Waves crashed far beneath them, spraying mist that clung to Jessica's coat. Despite the wind, the air felt oddly still, as if the cliffs were guarding their own secrets. A mile out, the path widened into a clearing. The lighthouse rose above them, tall, skeletal, abandoned. Its glass panes were cracked. Rust streaked down its white stone sides like old tears. Jessica paused at the base of the structure. "Chief, look." Scratches on the door, fresh ones. Hale touched the marks. "Someone forced this open recently." Jessica stepped closer. Or tried to. Hale unholstered her flashlight and pushed on the heavy metal door. It groaned, but opened, scraping across the stone floor. Inside, darkness blanketed everything. The air smelled of damp metal and stale salt. Spiral stairs wrapped upward into a shadowed tower, each step covered in dust, except for a handful of disturbed prints. "Someone's been climbing," Jessica whispered. Hale nodded, her grip tightening on her light. "Stay behind me." They began their ascent, slowly, quietly. Jessica's heart pounded at each creaking step. The lighthouse swallowed sound, the echo of their footsteps replaced by the whistle of wind through broken glass. Halfway up, Jessica spotted something, a scrap of cream-colored thread caught on a rusted nail. Her breath hitched. "The woman," she whispered. "She came here. Or someone brought her." Hale pocketed the thread, her expression grim. They continued the climb, the stairs narrowing as they neared the lantern room. When they reached the top, Hale pushed open the hatch. The room was dim but not empty. Jessica gasped. Papers, maps, letters, newspaper clippings were tacked across the walls of the lantern room, a chaotic collage of information, yet arranged with purpose. At the center of the wall was a photograph. The missing woman. Same face, same auburn hair, same cream sweater. Her eyes, even in the photo, looked fearful. Jessica stepped closer. "Chief, she wasn't just visiting the harbor, she knew something." Hale scanned the clippings. "This looks like an investigation board, but who made it? Her?" Jessica pointed to a scattered pile of objects on an overturned crate, a compass, a battery-powered lantern, an empty thermos, and a key ring with 2 unfamiliar keys. And one more item, a folded note. Jessica opened it carefully. The message was written in hurried strokes. "HH is not safe. Someone is watching me. Meet me at the pier at dawn. Don't be late." Signed with 2 letters. E.R. Hale exhaled sharply. She arranged a meeting. Someone else was supposed to show up. Jessica nodded. And someone else did show up, but not the person she expected. Hale began photographing everything with her phone. Whoever she was meeting knew her well enough to lure her out here alone. Jessica studied the board again. Articles about Hawthorne Harbor's finances, old maritime accident reports, photographs of several townspeople circled in red ink. Especially one, Daniel Keaton, Harbor Council, Treasurer. Jessica's eyes narrowed. "Chief, this man is the treasurer. Why would she mark him?" Hale stiffened. Keaton oversees harbor renovation funds, including the lighthouse restoration proposals. Jessica looked back at the defaced photo. "Do you trust him?" "Most people here do," Hale said bitterly. "Which makes me nervous." Jessica's gaze dropped to a ledger book beneath the crate. She dusted it off and flipped it open. It contained columns of numbers, but some rows were crossed out heavily. Others rewritten in a different pen. "Embezzlement," she murmured. She was tracking financial discrepancies. Hale cursed under her breath. If Keaton found out she was investigating him, Jessica finished quietly. He may have confronted her at the pier. A noise echoed from below. Both women froze. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming up the stairs. Hale motioned for silence. She extinguished the lantern. The lantern room plunged into darkness, broken only by thin beams of fading daylight filtering through cracked glass. Jessica's pulse hammered. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Hale whispered, "Stay behind me." The stairs creaked with weight. Then the footsteps halted. Silence. Jessica held her breath. A shadow moved just below the hatch. Then the footsteps retreated, quickly, as if the person realized they weren't alone. Hale lunged toward the hatch, shining her flashlight down the stairwell. But the intruder was already gone, footsteps pounding toward the door below. Jessica hurried to the window. A figure in a grey jacket sprinted across the rocks outside, disappearing behind a jagged formation before she could make out a face. Hale swore. They were watching the lighthouse. Watching us. Jessica nodded, gripping the note tightly. They didn't want us finding her investigation. Hale turned to the board of evidence pinned across the room. Whoever is behind this, they're still close, still watching. Jessica's eyes narrowed at the silent sea outside. And they know we're on their trail. Chapter 3. Shadows of the Gala. By mid-afternoon, Hawthorne Harbor had transformed from a fog-soaked fishing village into a vibrant festival hub. White tents stretched along the waterfront, strings of lanterns swayed gently overhead, and visitors strolled through author booths with cups of steaming cider. But beneath the cheerful surface, tension simmered. Jessica and Chief Marina Hale had returned from the lighthouse with more questions than answers, and a new urgency. The missing woman, identified only by her initials ER, had clearly been investigating something dangerous. The treasurer, Daniel Keaton, now stood out as a primary person of interest. And tonight he would be front and center. The Harbor Gala, a prestigious evening event kicking off the literary festival, was being hosted in the grand hall overlooking the water. Everyone important in Hawthorne Harbor would be in attendance, including Keaton. Chief Hale approached Jessica outside the town hall. "I pulled the missing persons list," she said quietly, "and I think we have a match." Jessica felt her pulse quicken. "Who?" Hale handed her a photograph. A young woman with auburn hair and an intelligent, serious expression. Evelyn Rhodes, 28 years old, investigative journalist. Jessica's breath caught. "A journalist, of course." Hale nodded. "She's freelanced for major publications, known for exposing financial corruption. Arrived in town 2 weeks ago, checked into a local inn, but she hasn't returned to her room since yesterday." Jessica looked at Evelyn's photo again, the same face she saw vanish from the pier. "This was no accident," Jessica said firmly. "Someone wanted her quiet." Chief Hale's jaw tightened. "Daniel Keaton is speaking at the gala. We'll question him after his speech, but Jessica..." She paused. "Watch carefully tonight. Someone out there followed us to the lighthouse." Jessica nodded. "And they'll be at the gala too." The gala begins. The Hawthorne Grand Hall shimmered under chandeliers as guests in elegant attire mingled across polished wooden floors. Tables dressed in navy and gold linens displayed hors d'oeuvres and champagne. The soft hum of a string quartet floated through the air. Jessica entered, wearing a simple navy coat, nothing flashy, but respectable. She scanned the room, her writer's instinct dissecting every detail. Chief Hale stood across the hall in uniform, speaking with event security. But Jessica's eyes moved toward the center of the room, where Daniel Keaton held court. Tall, well-groomed, dressed in a tailored grey suit. His smile gleamed too perfectly. He shook hands with donors, laughing loudly, pivoting effortlessly from conversation to conversation. To the untrained eye, he looked confident and charming. To Jessica Fletcher, he looked uneasy. Behind that smile was tension, tightness around the eyes, a stiffness in his shoulders, and several times Jessica noticed him glance toward the entrance. Watching, waiting, Jessica approached the refreshment table and casually poured herself a glass of sparkling water. From there, she maintained a clear line of sight to Keaton. Suddenly, a familiar voice greeted her. "Mrs. Fletcher, what an honor to meet you." Jessica turned to see a short, plump woman with rosy cheeks and bright eyes. "I'm Lillian Marsh, owner of the Seabreeze Inn." Jessica smiled politely. "A pleasure, Miss Marsh. Did Evelyn Rhodes check into your inn recently?" Lillian's expression dimmed. "Yes, she did. Lovely girl, very quiet. She said she was researching coastal economics, but I could tell she was lying. She seemed frightened sometimes, jumped whenever someone walked behind her." Jessica absorbed this. "Did she receive any visitors?" "Only one," Lillian whispered. "Late 2 nights ago, a man in a storm grey jacket. She let him into her room for about 10 minutes. Jessica's heart jolted. "Did you see his face?" "No," Lillian said, shaking her head. "But he moved fast, like he didn't want to be seen." Jessica's mind raced. The same grey jacket worn by the person fleeing the lighthouse earlier. Before Jessica could ask more, the lights dimmed. Daniel Keaton stepped onto the stage, tapping the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hawthorne Literary Festival's Gala Night." Polite applause spread through the hall. Keaton smiled too widely. "This year, we celebrate not only literature, but progress. Hawthorne Harbor has undergone significant renovations, thanks to our generous donors and the Council's trusted financial stewardship." A few people clapped. Jessica noticed Chief Hale watching Keaton intently, arms crossed. Keaton continued, "Our lighthouse restoration project." Jessica stiffened. The lighthouse. He paused, taking a sip of water. The glass trembled in his hand. "Is dear to my heart," he said, forcing the words. "We hope to reopen it next summer as a historical landmark." Jessica narrowed her eyes. Evelyn Rhodes had been investigating financial irregularities involving the lighthouse project. Keaton's voice quivered as he mentioned it. Suddenly, a commotion near the back of the hall stirred the crowd. An officer leaned into Chief Hale's ear. Hale's expression shifted into alarm, then fury. She turned sharply toward Keaton. "Daniel Keaton!" she called loudly, her voice cutting through the music. "A word with you!" The room fell silent. Keaton's eyes widened. "Chief Hale, is something wrong?" Hale stepped forward. "We need to discuss large sums of unaccounted money and a missing journalist." Keaton's composure faltered. "Chief, I really don't—" A loud crash silenced him. A champagne glass shattered on the floor. Everyone turned. A man stood near the exit, tall, wearing a storm grey jacket. Jessica's heart seized. The same jacket from the lighthouse. He looked directly at her, only for a second, and then bolted through the doors. Chief Hale shouted, "Stop him!" Jessica ran first, her instincts propelling her forward. She burst through the doors, chasing the man down the back corridor. "Hey, stop!" Hale's officers thundered behind her, but the corridor was long and dim. The man sprinted faster, knocking over chairs and displays behind him to block the path. Jessica dodged the obstacles, determination fueling her legs. The man pushed open a side exit and vanished into the fog outside. Jessica followed, only to stop cold. The courtyard was empty, silent. Fog curled around the stone steps like ghostly fingers, not a footprint, not a shadow. Chief Hale caught up, breathing hard. "Where is he?" Jessica scanned the surrounding darkness. "He was just here." Hale cursed. "This man knew Evelyn. He knew about the lighthouse, and now he knows we're on to Keaton." Jessica turned slowly toward the black water below the cliffside. "No," she said quietly. "He didn't run away." Hale frowned. "What do you mean?" Jessica's voice was cold, steady. "He's circling back, watching us, and he'll strike again before the truth comes out. If you want the next chapter, 1,000 words, fresh, non-repetitive, just say, Chapter 4. Messages in the sand fog thickened over Hawthorne Harbor like a blanket of cold smoke. Jessica and Chief Hale stood in the empty courtyard, where the mysterious man vanished moments earlier. The distant hum of festival music felt out of place, too bright, too carefree for the dark turn the evening had taken. Chief Hale surveyed the fog. He couldn't have gotten far. Jessica shook her head. He didn't need to. He knows these grounds better than we do. Hale muttered. Or he's been watching long enough to memorize every escape route. Jessica gazed toward the shoreline where waves quietly lapped against the sand. "Chief, I want to search the beach." Hale blinked. "Now? It's almost midnight." "Yes," Jessica said firmly. Evelyn Rhodes left clues everywhere she went. If she came to Hawthorne Harbor alone, under threat, she would have used the shore. Journalists trust patterns, patterns where they can hide evidence. Hale considered this, then nodded. "All right, let's go." The midnight shore. The two women walked down the sloping path toward the beach. Lantern posts cast faint pools of yellow light on the sand. The air smelled of seaweed and salt. The tide was low, exposing long stretches of damp shoreline. Jessica crouched near the waterline, sweeping her flashlight slowly across the sand. Hale walked beside her, scanning the opposite direction. If Evelyn was leaving coded messages in the lighthouse, maybe she hid more down here. Jessica's beam landed on something odd near a collection of rocks, a small mound of disturbed sand. She approached it. A flat stone rested on top, unnaturally placed. Jessica lifted the stone and found a folded piece of waterproof paper buried beneath. Hale hurried over. "What is it?" Jessica opened it carefully. 3 short phrases written in Evelyn's hand, stared back. "The lighthouse is only the beginning. He knows the currents. Find the gull." Hale frowned. "Find the gull? What does that mean?" Jessica thought for a moment. Evelyn was clever. She avoided direct statements. The gull must be code for something, or someone. Hale crossed her arms. "We have a fisherman named Gulliver Marks. Locals call him Gull." Jessica's eyes widened. "Is he well known around town?" "Very. Lives in a shack near the North Cliffs. Bit of a hermit, but harmless, I think." "Or Evelyn believed he wasn't," Jessica said softly. "She may have written this as a warning." Hale turned the note over. It was blank. "We'll visit him tomorrow at dawn. Too dangerous at night." Jessica nodded, though unease rippled through her. The fog intensified. Jessica continued scanning the shoreline, and then stopped dead. "Chief, look at this." Hale followed her gaze. Drawn in the damp sand, illuminated by moonlight, was a large symbol, a rough spiral with 3 lines slashed across it. Hale knelt. "That wasn't made by nature." "No," Jessica whispered. "Someone carved it recently." Hale shined her flashlight over the symbol. "Do you recognize it?" Jessica felt a chill. "Yes," It's an old sailor's mark. Hale looked confused. Meaning? It's a warning, Jessica said quietly. It means, beware the tide. Something hidden will return. Hale stood up. Evelyn left this? Jessica shook her head. I don't think so. The lines are too deep. She would have been more discreet. Hale inhaled sharply. Then whoever followed us to the lighthouse left this. A message, a threat, a declaration. Jessica scanned the shore again, suddenly on edge. Hale whispered, Let's get back to the station. We need backup. But Jessica remained crouched, staring at the symbol. Chief, wait. She noticed something glinting inside the carved spiral. Hale pulled out tweezers from her pocket. What is that? Jessica retrieved the object carefully. A tiny silver button, the kind used on high-end jackets. Her eyes sharpened. Chief, she said slowly, this matches the jacket from the man at the lighthouse. Hale's face hardened. Then he was here. He wanted us to see this. Jessica pocketed the button. And he wants us to know that Evelyn's disappearance was part of something much bigger. The fog swirled around them like ghosts rising from the tide. Suddenly, a loud splash. Both women spun toward the water. A figure moved just for a second near the rocks further down the beach. Hale shouted, Stop! She sprinted across the sand, Jessica close behind, but the figure darted between the shadows, disappearing behind a wall of fog rolling inland. Jessica stopped, breathless. He's playing with us. Hale clenched her jaw. Not for long. The broken shack. The search led them up the dunes toward a crumbling shack sitting crookedly near the cliffs. The wind howled through rotted planks. An old buoy swung from a rope, thumping rhythmically against the wood like a heartbeat. Hale whispered, Gulliver Marks lives here. Jessica felt her pulse tighten. The door creaked open slightly, already ajar. Gull! Hale called out. Hawthorne police! Only the waves responded. Hale pushed the door cautiously. Inside, the shack was a mess of fishing supplies, nets, hooks, ropes, weathered maps. A small cot sat in the corner. But something was wrong, Jessica pointed. Chief, look at the floor. Under a pile of nets, a broken lantern lay shattered. Jessica crouched. This is the same type of lantern used in the lighthouse. Hale walked deeper into the shack. Gulliver! Jessica noticed muddy footprints tracked across the floor, large, uneven prints leading to the back of the shack and out a broken window. Chief, someone fled through here. Hale followed the trail outside. The prints disappeared into the fog. Jessica sighed. This man is always one step ahead. Hale returned, looking troubled. Gulliver wasn't here tonight, but someone else was, and they were searching for something. Jessica looked around the shack again, eyes narrowing. Then she saw it, a torn corner of a photograph pinned under a rope hook. Jessica gently lifted it. It showed Evelyn Rhodes on the pier, taken secretly from behind. Hale exhaled. Whoever lives here knew Evelyn, watched her. Jessica's voice turned cold. And the person in the grey jacket knew Gulliver's shack well enough to escape through here. Hale whispered. They're connected. Jessica nodded. And tomorrow, we confront Gulliver Marks. Chapter 5. The Harbour Conspiracy. Morning arrived wrapped in grey clouds and uneasy silence. Hawthorne Harbor, normally lively with boats leaving at sunrise, seemed unusually tense. Fishermen avoided eye contact, shopkeepers whispered behind closed doors, and even the gulls circling overhead felt quieter than usual. Jessica and Chief Marina Hale stood outside Gulliver Marks's shack, waiting for him to return. The tide had receded, revealing long lines of seaweed and washed-up debris. He should be here by now, Hale muttered, her arms crossed. Gull's never late returning from his morning haul. Jessica studied the path leading to the cliffs. Unless someone didn't want him returning? Hale frowned. You think he's involved? Jessica shook her head. Not necessarily. Evelyn's note said, "Find the gull," which could mean Gulliver had information. He may be a witness, or the next target. Hale sighed. I don't like this. A distant engine rumbled. They turned to see an old fishing boat chugging toward the dock, paint-chipped, hull dented. Gulliver stood at the helm, wiry and weathered, his beard tangled like driftwood. When he spotted the authorities, his face tightened with suspicion. Hale motioned him over. Gulliver Marks, we need to speak with you immediately. Gulliver stepped onto the dock, wiping his hands on a rag. What's this about, Chief? I've done nothing wrong. Jessica's gaze softened. Mr. Marks, we need your help. A woman, Evelyn Rhodes, disappeared yesterday at the pier. We believe she may have spoken with you. Gulliver's eyes darted nervously. Don't know anyone by that name? Hale took a step forward. We found a photograph of her inside your shack. Gulliver stiffened. You were inside my home. A journalist's missing, Hale said firmly. And your shack shows signs of someone else being there last night. Gulliver exhaled shakily, lowering his eyes. I didn't hurt that girl. Jessica stepped closer. Did she come to you for information? Gulliver hesitated, then nodded slowly. Aye, she came 3 nights ago. Said she needed the truth about the harbour, about the council. Hale exchanged a glance with Jessica. What truth? Gulliver rubbed his temples. The harbour renovation? It's a scam. Jessica felt her pulse tighten. Explain. Gulliver pointed toward the lighthouse. Keaton's been funneling money from the restoration budget into a private account. Evelyn showed me paperwork, numbers that didn't add up. She wanted to gather proof. Hale cursed under her breath. So Evelyn uncovered financial crimes. And more, Gulliver added darkly. She said boats were being used for something else. Jessica leaned in. What else? Gulliver shook his head. I don't know exactly, but I know the signs. Late-night deliveries, unregistered crates, boats leaving without lights. Hale stiffened. Smuggling. Gulliver nodded. Keaton wasn't working alone. Evelyn believed someone inside the harbour helped move things in and out. Jessica's mind raced. She created a board at the lighthouse. She was tracking everything. Gulliver swallowed hard. When she left my shack, she was scared, said someone was following her. She went toward the pier to meet someone she trusted. But I don't think they showed up. Jessica asked quietly, Do you know who she was meeting? Gulliver hesitated. She mentioned initials, a name starting with C. Jessica frowned. C? Could be Cyrus Hale, Gulliver said reluctantly. Chief Hale stiffened. My brother? Gulliver raised his hands. I'm not accusing anyone. Evelyn said someone named Cyrus had information, but she wasn't sure if he'd come. Hale's face paled. Cyrus has been out of town for months. He left after family issues. She shook her head. No, this doesn't make sense. Jessica placed a reassuring hand on Hale's arm. We'll verify everything, Gulliver continued. Last night someone came to my shack looking for Evelyn's notes. Tall man, grey jacket. Didn't see his face. I barely got away. Jessica and Hale exchanged a grim look. The same man, the same jacket, the same shadow stalking them. Hale stepped back. Gull, you're coming with us for safety. You're a target. Gulliver nodded gratefully. Aye, I figured as much. Listening to the water. Back at the station, Hale secured Gulliver in a safe room. Jessica sat across from Hale in the briefing office, papers spread across the table, Evelyn's notes, the message found in the sand, and the lighthouse photographs. Hale rubbed her forehead. So Keaton's definitely stealing from the lighthouse project. Jessica nodded. And someone else is helping him move contraband through the harbour. Hale leaned back. If my brother is involved, he may not be, Jessica said gently. Evelyn was connecting clues quickly. C could be anyone. Carlton, Clara, Captain something. Hale sighed. You're right, but Keaton is our primary suspect. Jessica studied the documents. But smuggling requires multiple people, someone who knows the tides, someone with access to boats, someone comfortable in the water. She paused. Someone like Gulliver? Hale's eyes widened. You think Gull's involved? Not directly, Jessica said carefully, but someone may be using his shack as a meeting point. His home is isolated near both the cliffs and the smuggling routes. Hale nodded slowly. That explains the footprints. Jessica lifted the silver button again. And someone dropped this while escaping. Hale frowned. It's custom-made. Could belong to someone wealthy. Jessica's gaze drifted to the gala guests. Someone like Daniel Keaton, or someone he works with. Hale began to pace. We need more evidence, something that ties Keaton to Evelyn's disappearance. Jessica's eyes drifted to the tide chart pinned to the wall. Chief, look at this. Hale approached. What am I seeing? Jessica traced the chart with her finger. The currents near the north cliff, a complicated pattern. Only experienced sailors would know how to navigate it. Hale inhaled sharply. And Evelyn's note said, he knows the currents. Not Keaton. Keaton barely knows starboard from port. Jessica nodded. So the man in the grey jacket isn't Keaton. Then who? Hale whispered. Jessica paused. Someone with boating experience, someone who knows the tides intimately, someone who could disappear into fog like a ghost. Hale bit her lip. You think Gulliver wasn't the only fisherman involved? Jessica nodded. There's someone else. Just then, a deputy burst through the office door. Chief, you need to see this. Hale turned sharply. What is it? The deputy handed her a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a waterproof recorder, like the kind journalists use. Jessica's breath caught. Where did you find this? She asked. At the North Cliffs, wedged between rocks, must have washed up. Hale opened it carefully and pressed play. Static. Then, Evelyn's trembling voice. If you're hearing this, I was right. Keaton is lying, but he's not the mastermind. The real danger is... A sudden splash. A muffled shout, then silence. Jessica and Hale stared at each other, hearts pounding. Chief, Jessica whispered, we need to find the rest of that recording. Hale grabbed her coat, and we need to find whoever silenced her before they silence someone else. Chapter 6. The Confession. That wasn't the recorder's static, faded out, leaving an eerie quiet in the station's briefing room. Jessica felt the weight of the moment settle over her like fog rolling in from the harbor. Evelyn Rhodes had been moments away from naming the true culprit, before something, or someone, stopped her. Chief Marina Hale tightened her grip on the recorder. We need the rest of this. Maybe it's still out there. Jessica nodded. If the device was damaged, parts of the memory could still be intact. But before we dive into reconstruction, we need to question the one person Evelyn trusted enough to meet. Hale's face darkened. Cyrus Hale. Jessica placed a comforting hand on her arm. It doesn't mean he's guilty, but he may know something important. Hale exhaled shakily. I'll call him. She stepped outside with her phone, pacing near the window as she dialed. Jessica remained at the table, reviewing Evelyn's notes again, scribbles, diagrams, arrows pointing to harbor structures. Smuggling routes, tide patterns, lighthouse accounts. Then her eye stopped on a name written in bold, Marauder's Reef. She leaned closer. A small note beneath read, Boats hide during outgoing tide. Someone meets them from the cliffs. Jessica felt a chill. Marauders Reef was a hazardous cluster of rocks just beyond the North Cliffs, a place few locals dared to approach. Hale re-entered the room, her voice tight. Cyrus is already in Hawthorne Harbor. Jessica lifted her brows. Already here? When did he return? Last night, Hale whispered. He arrived during the gala but didn't check in with me. He said he wanted a quiet visit before coming home. Jessica stood. We need to talk to him now. The brother returns. Cyrus Hale waited on a bench near the wharf, hands in his pockets, head lowered. He looked exhausted, tall, thin, with the same dark hair as his sister, but streaked with silver. His coat was patched from travel, and his boots were still damp from the morning tide. Chief Hale approached him cautiously. Cyrus! He stood, offering a weak smile. Marina, it's been a while. Jessica stepped closer. Mr. Hale, I'm Jessica Fletcher. I know, he said softly. I've read your books. Marina crossed her arms. We need answers. Did you meet Evelyn Rhodes? Cyrus looked startled. You know about her? Jessica watched closely. She mentioned you in her notes. Cyrus rubbed his face tiredly. She came to me for help. She thought the Harbour Council was corrupt. She showed me documents. I told her to be careful. But did you meet her yesterday morning? Hale insisted. Cyrus hesitated. Jessica sensed hesitation and guilt. Yes, Cyrus finally said. I went to meet her at the pier, but she never showed. Jessica stepped forward. You're sure? Cyrus's voice cracked. I waited for 20 minutes. I figured she changed her mind. I left. Hale's eyes narrowed. You didn't see anyone else? Cyrus swallowed. A fisherman. Someone wearing a grey jacket. Jessica stiffened. Could you see his face? No, Cyrus said, but he kept watching the pier. I thought he was waiting for a boat. Jessica exchanged a heavy look with Hale. The same man, she whispered. Always the same man. The unexpected confession. As they spoke, the station door flew open. An officer hurried inside. Chief Daniel Keaton just walked into the station, and he wants to confess. All three froze. Confess to what? Hale demanded. Everything, the officer said. He's in interview room B. Hale stared at Jessica, stunned. This could be a trap. Or he's scared, Jessica replied softly. Cornered animals act rashly. They entered the interview room. Daniel Keaton sat at the metal table, hands clasped, face pale. His once perfect suit was wrinkled, and his tie hung loose around his neck. He looked like a man crushed beneath the weight of looming consequence. Chief Hale sat opposite him. Mr. Keaton, you have information? Keaton nodded shakily. I want a deal. I'll tell you everything I know about Evelyn Rhodes. Jessica leaned forward. Then start talking. Keaton's voice trembled. She knew about the smuggling ring. She found my accounting files. He swallowed hard. I confronted her. Hale's eyes flashed. Did you harm her? No, Keaton said quickly. I swear, I only threatened to expose her if she published lies about me. I never touched her. I'm not a killer. Jessica studied him. But you are stealing money. Keaton closed his eyes. Yes, and they made me. Jessica's pulse quickened. They? Keaton nodded. I'm not the mastermind. Someone forced me to help move money, someone powerful, someone who threatened to ruin me. Hale leaned in. Who? Give us a name. Keaton whispered, voice cracking. Gulliver Marks. Jessica flinched. Gulliver, that's impossible. He's terrified. Keaton shook his head violently. That's his act. He's the one coordinating the smuggling boats. Ask anyone. People think he's harmless. That's why he's perfect. He knows every current, every cove, every unmarked route. He wiped sweat from his brow. He used my accounts to hide transfers. Evelyn figured it out. She went to confront him. Jessica felt her stomach drop. Gulliver? The man who lived alone? The man who warned them about Keaton? Or the man who misled them on purpose? Hale slammed her palm on the table. "If you're lying—" "I'm not," Keaton sobbed. "Find the rest of Evelyn's recorder. It captured more before someone attacked her." Jessica stepped back, mind spinning. Gulliver had motive. Gulliver had access. Gulliver knew the tides. And Gulliver was one of the only people who could disappear into fog without leaving a trace. "Chief," Jessica whispered, "Gulliver isn't safe in the station." Hale's eyes widened. "He's in the safe room." Jessica shook her head. "That won't stop him if he's part of this." Hale bolted out of the interrogation room. "Move! Check the safe room!" Jessica followed, heart pounding. They reached the safe room. The door was open. Inside, the chair where Gulliver had been sitting was empty. Only the rope that tied him to the chair lay sliced clean on the floor. Jessica felt the blood drain from her face. "He's gone," Hale whispered. "He escaped." Jessica stepped back, breath tightening. "And he's not running away." She stared toward the harbor through the window. He's finishing whatever he started. Chapter 7. Storm over the water. Rain clouds gathered over Hawthorne Harbor like a warning. The wind sliced through the air with sharp, cold gusts as Jessica and Chief Hale stared at the empty safe room where Gulliver Marks had been held. The sliced ropes lay on the floor like abandoned snakes. "He didn't struggle," Jessica murmured. "He cut himself free cleanly, fast, efficient." Hale's expression tightened. "He played us? All along?" Jessica nodded reluctantly. "Gulliver is far more capable than he lets on. Pretending to be harmless made him invisible." Hale clenched her jaw. "He must know we found the recorder. He'll try to destroy evidence before we get the rest." Jessica stared out the window toward the roiling sea. "And we need to get to Marauder's Reef." Hale blinked. "You think he's heading there?" Jessica pointed to the tide chart pinned to the wall. "Evelyn's note. He knows the currents. Those currents shift every 6 hours. He'll use the next tide to reach the cove behind the reef, the perfect hiding spot." Hale grabbed her rain jacket. "Then we're going now." The harbor in chaos. By the time they reached the docks, the wind had picked up and the clouds had cracked open, releasing a cold, hard rain. Harbor workers scrambled to tie down equipment as waves crashed violently against the pier. Cyrus Hale waited near the boats, face pale. "I heard the police scanners. Is it true? Gulliver escaped?" Hale nodded grimly. "He's the one Evelyn was afraid of, not Keaton." Cyrus stepped forward, rain streaking down his face. "Let me help." Jessica placed a hand on his arm. "No, he's dangerous. Stay here." Cyrus shook his head. "Gulliver knows me. I know the water. You'll need someone who can steer through this storm." Hale hesitated, but Jessica nodded. "Fine, but don't leave my sight." Cyrus gave a shaky smile. "Believe me, I don't want to end up in the water tonight." Chief Hale chose a patrol boat, small, sturdy, and fast. The engine roared to life, lights cutting through the driving rain. Jessica gripped the railing as Cyrus steered into the churning harbor. The town shrank behind them as they sliced through waves, rain stinging their faces. Water sprayed across the deck, and the boat rocked violently. "Hold on!" Cyrus shouted. The harbor mouth approached, a narrow opening leading to the open sea. Thunder rumbled overhead. Hale steadied herself against the cabin. "If Gulliver's going to finish this, tonight's his perfect cover." Jessica nodded grimly. Storms erase footprints, hide evidence, drown out shouts, and destroy anything left behind. The shadow in the waves. As they approached the jagged outline of Marauder's Reef, Jessica spotted something through the sheets of rain. A light, small, flickering, moving. "There!" she shouted. "Near the rocks." Cyrus pushed the throttle, and the boat surged forward. The silhouette of another vessel took shape, a small fishing boat bobbing violently as waves slammed against its hull. Hale raised binoculars. "It's Gulliver's boat." Jessica's heart pounded. "He's transferring evidence." Cyrus navigated closer, but with caution. "Those rocks are deadly. One wrong move." Jessica steadied her breathing. "We don't get too close. We get him to come to us." Hale grabbed the megaphone. "Gulliver Marks, this is the Hawthorne Harbor police. Cut your engine and surrender." Lightning illuminated the sky. Gulliver appeared on the deck of his boat, grey jacket soaked, hair plastered to his forehead. His eyes glowed with a wild intensity as he hurled a waterproof satchel toward the waves. Jessica gasped. "He's dumping Evelyn's notes!" Hale shouted again. "Gulliver, stop!" He ignored her, grabbed another satchel, and threw it overboard. Jessica's gut twisted. "We have to stop him!" Cyrus maneuvered the patrol boat alongside Gulliver's vessel, staying just far enough to avoid the rocks. Gulliver turned toward them, rain streaking across his face. For a moment, the wind died, and Jessica saw something chilling. He was smiling. "You should have stayed out of it," he shouted. "She didn't know when to quit, and neither do you." Jessica stepped forward. "Evelyn trusted you. Why betray her?" His eyes flashed. "Because she threatened everything, my roots, my livelihood, the whole operation. She found out about the shipments. She found out who financed it. She wasn't careful." Hale yelled, "Who's financing it, Keaton?" Gulliver laughed bitterly. "Keaton, he's just a pawn. I used him. I used everyone. Smuggling is older than this town. It's how I survived, and I won't let any outsider ruin that." Jessica's anger burned through the cold. "So, you followed her, cornered her, attacked her?" Gulliver's smile widened. "She should have stayed away from the pier." Lightning cracked across the sky as Gulliver pulled something from his coat. A flare gun. Jessica gasped. "Everyone down!" Cyrus veered the patrol boat sharply, but Gulliver fired. The flare streaked across the rain-dark sky, exploding inches from the patrol boat's bow. Hale shouted, "He's going to sink us!" Cyrus yelled over the wind, "Jessica, get inside the cabin!" But Jessica shook her head. "Not yet." She grabbed a coil of rope from the deck, eyes fixed on Gulliver. The boats rocked violently, rising and falling with the towering waves. Cyrus swung closer, just close enough. "Now, Jessica!" he shouted. She hurled the rope with all her strength. It arced through the storm and struck true, landing across Gulliver's railing. The rope whipped tight as a wave slammed into both boats. Gulliver lost his balance and stumbled. Hale lunged for the rope, pulling it with all her strength. "Help me!" Jessica grabbed the rope too. Cyrus kept the boat steady as Hale and Jessica strained against the storm. Gulliver fought back, gripping his railing, pulling hard. "Let go!" he bellowed. "Let go or we all go down." But Jessica held fast. Not this time. A wave smashed into Gulliver's boat, tilting it dangerously. His hands slipped. One final surge of the tide hit. Gulliver's grip broke. He flew forward, crashing into the water with a violent splash. "Man overboard!" Hale shouted. Jessica looked desperately at the churning darkness. "Where is he?" Lightning flashed, revealing Gulliver for only half a second before the waves swallowed him whole. "Gone!" Cyrus slowed the boat, scanning the surface. He's not coming back up." Jessica felt her heart sink. The storm roared. Rain poured harder. The sea churned with no mercy. Hale lowered her head. "We'll send a recovery team when it's safe, but tonight—" Jessica swallowed hard. Tonight, the harbor claimed him. Chapter 8. The truth beneath the tides. The storm rolled out to sea by sunrise, leaving Hawthorne Harbor washed clean, yet heavy with aftermath. Broken branches littered the streets, puddles pooled along the docks, and the air carried the sharp scent of salt and rain. But for Jessica Fletcher, the real storm, the one of secrets, fear, and betrayal, still hovered in the quiet spaces between every unanswered question. Chief Marina Hale stood at the edge of the battered pier, scanning the grey waves. The search boats were still out, combing the churning water in hopes of retrieving Gulliver Marks's body. No one said it out loud, but they all knew. The sea rarely gave back what it took. Jessica approached quietly. Any sign? Hale shook her head. Nothing yet. But the divers say the currents around Marauder's Reef are vicious. He may be lodged between the rocks or swept further out. Jessica placed a hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens, you stopped him from hurting anyone else. Hale looked down. I can't help feeling conflicted. Gulliver was part of this community. People trusted him. Jessica's voice was soft. And that's what made him so dangerous. His invisibility gave him power. Hale sighed. There's still one thing I don't understand. If Gulliver was the leader of the smuggling ring, why frame Daniel Keaton? Why manipulate the lighthouse renovations? That's what we need to uncover, Jessica said, and I think Evelyn left us one last clue. Hale raised a brow. Where? Jessica nodded toward the station. In the recorder. The recorder reveals a new voice. Back in the briefing room, forensic technicians dried and cleaned Evelyn's battered recorder. After hours of careful work, they finally retrieved a second audio fragment. Chief Hale, Jessica, Cyrus, and 2 officers stood around as the technician pressed play. Static crackled. Then Evelyn's voice, shaken but firm. Gulliver knows the smuggling routes, but he's not the one financing everything. The money comes from someone who isn't who they say they are. Someone respected, someone close to the council, someone who... The recording cut off abruptly with a harsh splash and a scream. Jessica leaned back. So, Gulliver wasn't the mastermind, only the operations leader. Hale frowned. Which means someone else is still out there, Cyrus whispered. The person Evelyn was about to name. Jessica nodded. We need to examine every name connected to harbour renovation funds. Hale turned to her deputy. Pull the full financial ledgers now. Minutes later, multiple folders were spread across the table. Names, transactions, projects. Jessica sifted through page after page until something caught her eye. Chief, look at this. She pushed one ledger forward. Hale's eyes widened. Clara Davenport, assistant harbour manager. Hale blinked. Clara? She's been my right hand since I became chief. Jessica pointed to the ledger. Large cash withdrawals, unexplained transfers, all filtered through the lighthouse and approved by Keaton, but funded by Clara. Cyrus frowned. But she wasn't at the gala, Jessica finished softly, because she knew she couldn't face the crowd if things went wrong. Hale stood abruptly. Her office! Now! The empty office. The police station's upper floor housed administrative offices. Hale marched down the hallway, Jessica close behind. Clara's door was slightly ajar. Clara? Hale called, pushing it open. The room was empty. Desk drawers hung open. Papers littered the floor. A clear sign of someone leaving in a hurry or staging a distraction. Jessica scanned the room. She left less than an hour ago. The coffee on the desk is still warm. Hale slapped her hand on the table. She knew we were closing in. Jessica noticed something under the waste bin, a torn scrap of paper. She knelt and lifted it. A ferry ticket. Hawthorne Harbor, Blackstone Island. Departure 8:45 a.m. today. Jessica checked her watch. 8:29 a.m. Chief, she whispered, we have 16 minutes. Hale bolted from the room. Then we catch her. A race against time. The road to the ferry terminal curved along the cliffs, the sea roaring below. Hale's squad car tore down the narrow lanes, lights flashing. Jessica held on to the dashboard as they rounded sharp bends. "Clara knows the harbour schedules too well," Hale said. "She'll disappear the moment that ferry pulls away." "And if she financed the operation," Jessica added, "she may be carrying documents, names, even money." They reached the terminal with 5 minutes to spare. Passengers lined up at the dock, stamping their feet against the cold. The ferry bobbed gently at the loading ramp. Jessica scanned the crowd. "There!" she pointed. Clara Davenport, short hair tucked under a hood, large bag over her shoulder, hurried toward the waiting line. Hale leaped from the car. "Clara, stop!" Clara froze, turned, then ran. Jessica chased her across the dock. Clara pushed through startled passengers, knocking over a suitcase. Hale followed, shouting for people to move. "Stop!" Hale repeated. "Clara, don't do this!" Clara reached the edge of the loading ramp just as the ferry horn sounded. Jessica's lungs burned as she sprinted. "Clara, it's over!" Clara turned, panicked eyes locking with Jessica's. "No!" she hissed. "It's not over! You don't know what they'll do to me!" Jessica slowed her approach. "Who, Clara? Who else is involved?" Clara shook her head violently. "You don't understand. They're everywhere. This town, this harbour, has been running on illegal money for years. Gulliver was just the face. The real network—" Hale stepped closer. "Clara, put the bag down." But Clara clutched it tighter. "I can't. If I talk, they'll kill me. If I run, maybe I have a chance." Jessica's voice softened. "Running won't save you. The truth will." Clara's eyes darted between them. Between the ferry, between the open sea. Rain began again, light but cold. She took one trembling step backward. The loading ramp beneath her foot slickened with water. Her foot slipped. Clara screamed as she lost balance. Hale lunged, grabbing Clara's wrist just in time. Jessica grabbed Hale's arm, anchoring them both. Passengers gasped as the three women balanced precariously on the edge. "Clara!" Hale shouted. "I've got you! Drop the bag!" Clara sobbed. "I can't. Let it go. The bag is weighing you down," Jessica warned. "Drop it or we all fall." Clara hesitated, then released the bag. It splashed into the water below and sank immediately. Jessica and Hale pulled Clara back onto solid ground. Clara collapsed, trembling. Hale cuffed her gently. "Clara Davenport, you're under arrest." Clara sobbed quietly. "I'm sorry and I wanted out. I really did." Jessica placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Then start by telling the truth. A town heals." Hours later, Clara gave a full confession. The smuggling ring extended beyond the harbour, reaching investors in 3 towns, suppliers from out of state, and a network using Hawthorne Harbor as a quiet drop point. Gulliver was their seasoned navigator, Clara their financial handler, Keaton their unwilling pawn. And Evelyn Rhodes, the brave journalist, uncovered it all. Her voice, captured forever on that damaged recorder, was the spark that brought the truth to light. As the sun broke through afternoon clouds, Chief Hale stood beside Jessica, overlooking the calm sea. "Thank you," Hale said softly. "This town owes you a lot." Jessica smiled. "Evelyn deserves the credit. She never stopped searching for the truth." Hale nodded. "We'll honor her properly, and we'll rebuild Hawthorne Harbor honestly this time." Jessica gazed toward the lighthouse, its beacon long extinguished, but no longer burdened by secrets. "Every town," she said gently, "deserves a chance to start over." Hale smiled. "Will you come back for the festival next year?" Jessica chuckled. "Only if the harbour promises no more mysteries." Hale smirked. "No promises." Jessica Fletcher walked back toward the village road, sea breeze lifting her hair. Another story closed, another town safe, another truth uncovered. And with every step, she felt ready for the next mystery waiting just beyond the horizon.